On May 17, 2019, at 6:42 a.m., a silver 2016 Ford F-150 pulled into the gravel lot of a remote gas station on the outskirts of Gila Bend, Arizona. The security camera footage, later reviewed frame by investigators, shows a young couple stepping out into the pale desert morning. The sky was already a bleached blue, the kind that promised brutal heat before noon. Heat shimmered above the asphalt even at that early hour, bending the horizon and making distant objects appear to float. The man was identified as Caleb Ward, age 31. Tall, athletic, former Army mechanic turned freelance off-road guide. The woman beside him was Megan Ward, age 27, a wildlife photography assistant and amateur documentarian who had recently begun filming short desert survival reels for social media. They were married for just under 11 months. According to receipts and phone records, they purchased 2 large bottles of water, beef jerky, sunscreen, a bag of ice, and a full tank of gas. Caleb was seen joking with the clerk. Megan lingered by a rack of postcards showing saguaros and red rock canyons, picking one up and snapping a photo of it on her phone. It would be the last photo ever recovered from her device. Their plan, shared with friends and family, was simple. They intended to explore an abandoned mining access road that cut deep into a restricted stretch of desert north of Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. Caleb had downloaded old topographic maps. Megan wanted footage of abandoned shafts and desert wildlife at golden hour. They planned to be back by nightfall. At 7:11 a.m., the truck was seen pulling back onto the highway, then turning onto a barely marked dirt road that disappeared into a sea of scrub, brush, volcanic rock, and distant mountain ridges that looked close but were hours away by foot. Cell service dropped less than 5 miles in. What investigators would later call the window began at approximately 8:03 a.m. That was the timestamp of the last outgoing signal from Megan's phone. A short video clip, never uploaded, was found in her cloud storage. It showed Caleb laughing behind the wheel as the truck bounced over rough terrain. Dust coated the windshield. Megan's voice could be heard off camera. "You swear this is still a road?" Caleb replied. "Road is a generous word." They laughed. The camera tilted toward the desert, capturing endless beige terrain, dark rock outcroppings, and heat waves already rising from the ground. In the far distance, something that might have been a structure flickered on the horizon, distorted by mirage. After that clip, there were no more videos, no texts, no GPS pings, no emergency calls. By 9:30 a.m., the temperature in that region had climbed to 97 degrees Fahrenheit. By noon, it would reach 113. At 10:17 a.m., Caleb's brother, Daniel Ward, received a text from Caleb's phone. It was a single message. "Found something weird out here." No location tag, no photo, no follow-up. Daniel replied immediately, no response. Megan's mother, Lisa Reynolds, said she became uneasy that afternoon when Megan missed a scheduled check-in call. Megan was meticulous about safety. She had rules. Always check in by noon. Always send coordinates. Always send a photo of the truck and surroundings. That day, none of those rules were followed. By 7:48 p.m., after repeated unanswered calls, the family contacted the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Given the remoteness of the area and the lack of a confirmed location, the report was initially logged as overdue travelers. The first night passed with no sign of the couple. The desert does not get quiet at night. It gets louder. Coyotes, wind moving through dry grass, the distant crack of cooling rock. And sometimes, sounds that search and rescue volunteers later described as impossible to place, echoing between the low mountain ridges. On the morning of May 18th, a formal search operation was initiated. Deputies, border patrol units familiar with the terrain, and volunteer search teams began scanning dirt access roads, dry washes, and abandoned mine routes. Helicopters traced long, slow arcs over the desert floor. They found nothing. No tire tracks, no footprints, no campsite, no sign of a vehicle. The terrain was vast. The maps were outdated. Many of the roads no longer existed. Others branched and rejoined in ways that made aerial tracking nearly useless. By day 3, heat exhaustion had sent 2 volunteers to the hospital. By day 5, investigators began to quietly consider what they would not yet say out loud, that the couple might not want to be found. But then, on June 3, 2019, more than 2 weeks after the disappearance, a Border Patrol reconnaissance helicopter picked up a thermal anomaly deep in a restricted basin, nearly 40 miles from the couple's last known signal. At first, it appeared to be a heat signature from exposed rock. Then the pilot circled lower. The shape was wrong. Metal retains heat differently. What they saw, half buried in dust and surrounded by empty desert in all directions, was the unmistakable outline of a pickup truck. When ground units reached the location 4 hours later, they found the silver Ford F-150 exactly where the helicopter had marked it. The engine was running. The driver's door was open. The fuel gauge was just above empty. The air conditioning was still blowing cold. Inside the cab, 2 phones were found on the center console, both powered on, both with no signal. On the dashboard, Megan's camera lay face down, its lens packed with fine red dust. There was no blood, no sign of a struggle, no footprints leading away, no footprints leading toward. Just the truck, idling in the middle of the Arizona desert. As if its occupants had stepped out for only a moment and simply never returned. The discovery of the still-running truck transformed the case overnight. What had been treated as a difficult but not unprecedented overdue hiker situation was immediately reclassified as a high-risk missing persons investigation. The location where the Ford F-150 was found did not match any of the routes Caleb had downloaded or any roads visible on public satellite maps. It sat in a shallow basin surrounded by low, jagged hills, an area known locally as a wind trap, where fine red dust moved constantly, erasing tracks within minutes. Investigators shut off the engine at 6:12 p.m. The fuel tank was nearly empty. Based on fuel consumption and idle time, analysts later estimated the truck had been running between 18 and 24 hours. No one could explain why it had not stalled days earlier. Some speculated that someone had restarted it. Others suggested the heat and wind conditions made accurate estimates impossible. Inside the vehicle, the scene was unnervingly normal. 2 half-empty water bottles sat in the cup holders. A protein bar wrapper lay crumpled on the passenger side floorboard. Sunglasses rested on the dashboard. The radio was tuned to a static-heavy local AM station. The clock on the display read 2:41, frozen there after the battery briefly dipped below operational voltage and reset. The truck keys were still in the ignition. Megan's camera was recovered and carefully sealed. The memory card inside contained over 3 hours of footage from the day they entered the desert. Most of it was routine. Bumpy driving, landscape shots, Megan narrating observations about animal tracks and rock formations, Caleb joking about getting lost. But the final 22 minutes were different. The footage began to show signs of stress. The camera angle shifted more often. Megan's breathing was heavier. The truck had stopped moving. The footage showed the same basin where the truck would later be found, but earlier, when the sun was still high. Heat shimmer distorted the horizon. Caleb could be heard off camera. "This isn't on the map," Megan replied. "Nothing out here is on the map." There was a long stretch where neither of them spoke. Wind hissed against the microphone. The camera zoomed in on a distant rock formation that looked almost artificial, a jagged ridge with a dark opening near its base that resembled a cave or mine entrance. Megan whispered, "Do you see that?" Caleb said, "Yeah." "That's not marked either." The camera zoomed further, but the heat distortion made the opening appear to ripple, as if the rock itself were breathing. Then the footage cut. The next clip was only 14 seconds long. The camera was on the ground, tilted sideways. The truck door could be seen open in the background. Caleb's boots stepped briefly into frame. His voice sounded closer, sharper. "Meg, stay by the truck." Her voice came back strained. "I hear something." "What kind of something?" Like someone walking." "But there's no one out here." There was a faint sound on the recording, not wind, not an animal. Investigators described it as a soft, rhythmic crunch, too slow for footsteps on gravel, too deliberate for shifting rock. Then the clip ended. That was the last known recording. Search teams expanded the perimeter outward in concentric rings. They found old tire tracks unrelated to the couple, smuggler trails, abandoned backpacks, animal remains bleached by the sun. One team located an unmarked mine shaft 3 miles from the truck, but it showed no signs of recent disturbance. Canine units were brought in. The dogs showed interest in the truck. They did not pick up a trail leading away. Instead, several handlers reported that their dogs became agitated, circling the vehicle, whining, and refusing to move more than 20 yards from it. One dog reportedly lay down beside the open driver's door and would not respond to commands for nearly 5 minutes. By June 7th, the search shifted from rescue to recovery. Privately, officials told the family that survival in that environment beyond 72 hours without shelter was unlikely. Temperatures reached 118 degrees during the day. At night, the desert cooled rapidly, creating extreme temperature swings that placed additional strain on the body. Caleb's brother Daniel refused to accept it. He drove to Arizona and joined the volunteer searches. He walked dry washes until his boots split. He followed rumors from locals who claimed to have seen a silver truck weeks earlier near the Mexican border, though none of those tips were substantiated. Megan's mother Lisa began tracking online forums where armchair investigators speculated wildly. Some believed the couple had been targeted by smugglers. Others suggested a mechanical breakdown followed by disorientation. A smaller, darker group fixated on the idea that the couple had discovered something they were not supposed to see. The sheriff's office dismissed those theories publicly, but internally, several investigators noted inconsistencies. There were no skid marks, no evidence of mechanical failure, no reason for the truck to be parked in that basin, and no explanation for why both phones had been left behind. In late June, a thermal imaging survey of the surrounding hills detected a brief heat signature at night approximately 1 mile from the truck. A team was dispatched at dawn. They found nothing. No shelter, no fire pit, no footprints, only a patch of disturbed dust near a rock face as if something heavy had been dragged briefly and then lifted away. The disturbed area measured approximately 6 feet long. Investigators photographed it. They flagged it. They returned the next day. The wind had erased it completely. By mid-July, the official search was suspended, but something about the case refused to settle. On August 2nd, 2019, a rancher nearly 60 miles east of the original search zone reported hearing a truck engine late at night in an area with no public roads. When deputies arrived, there was no vehicle, but the rancher showed them a shallow impression in the sand that matched the approximate width of an F-150's tires. More troubling was what else he reported. He claimed he heard a woman screaming, not screaming for help, screaming in panic as if she had just realized where she was. Deputies searched the area for 2 days. They found nothing. No footprints, no vehicle tracks, no sign of human presence. The official explanation was that the rancher had mistaken coyotes for a human voice. But Lisa Reynolds listened to the audio of a recorded emergency call from that rancher. She said, through tears, that the voice he described sounded like her daughter on August 19, 2019, 3 months after Caleb and Megan Ward vanished. Daniel Ward received a notification on his phone at 2:14 a.m. It was from Megan's number. For a full 6 seconds, Daniel stared at the screen, convinced he was hallucinating from exhaustion. He had barely slept in weeks. The message preview showed only 2 words, "Still here." The message disappeared before he could open it. Phone records later confirmed something even more disturbing. The message had not come from Megan's physical phone, which was still locked in evidence storage. It had been routed through a temporary cellular relay, pinging off a portable tower near a remote construction zone, more than 30 miles from where the truck had been found. Daniel immediately called the sheriff's office. By the time technicians checked the logs, the temporary tower had already been dismantled. The construction company reported no unusual activity and no record of after-hours workers at that time. 2 days later, Lisa Reynolds received a voicemail from an unknown number. There was no voice. Only breathing, slow, uneven, followed by a faint sound that investigators later matched to wind passing through narrow rock openings. Lisa collapsed when she heard it. She said she recognized the pattern of breathing. Megan had asthma as a child. During panic attacks, her breaths followed the same strained rhythm. The sheriff's office publicly attributed both incidents to hoaxes. Privately, technicians admitted something did not fit. The signal routing was too precise, the breathing too long to be a prank, the ambient sound too consistent with the desert terrain. Then, on September 3, 2019, something appeared online. A private YouTube channel under the name Desert Watcher 87 uploaded a single unlisted video. It was only discovered because an automated system flagged Megan Ward's name in the audio. The video quality was poor, grainy, shaky, filmed at night with what appeared to be an older camcorder or modified dash camera. At first, the footage showed only darkness and a sliver of moonlit desert. Then the camera shifted. The silver Ford F-150 appeared in frame. It was unmistakable, the same dent on the rear bumper, the same custom antenna, the same Arizona plate partially obscured by dust. The truck headlights were on. The engine was running. The timestamp on the video showed a date 2 weeks after the truck had already been recovered by authorities. In the background, a woman's voice could be heard, soft, hoarse. "Caleb," the camera swung violently. The desert stretched out in all directions. No buildings, no people, no visible roads. Then the voice again, closer to the microphone. "They said you'd come back." The video cut to black. The account was deleted within hours, but copies had already been saved. Forensic analysts confirmed that the voice matched Megan Ward's with a probability of 96.4%. The implications were impossible. According to official records, Megan's phone, camera, and all personal electronics had been in evidence since June. According to the video metadata, the file had been recorded in a location consistent with the Sonoran Desert. Someone had access to the truck. Someone had access to Megan. Or someone was using her voice. Search operations quietly restarted, this time without public announcement. Unmarked vehicles returned to the basin. Border Patrol units swept remote corridors. Rangers checked abandoned structures and mine entrances. Nothing. No truck, no woman, no equipment. In October, a Park Service employee reported something strange. While performing routine maintenance near a restricted trail, he found fresh footprints leading into an area that had been closed for years due to unstable terrain. The prints were small, consistent with a woman's hiking boots. They went in. They did not come out. At the end of the trail, rangers found a small pile of objects arranged neatly on a flat rock. A cracked phone case matching Megan's model, a lens cap, and a folded piece of paper protected under a stone. On it, written in shaky handwriting, were 3 words. "He won't let me." Handwriting experts could not definitively confirm it was Megan's, but Lisa Reynolds took one look and said she would recognize her daughter's writing anywhere. The sheriff's office sealed the area. They found nothing else. Winter came, the desert cooled. The case went quiet again until January 2020. That was when a long-haul truck driver traveling through a remote stretch of Highway 85 reported seeing a woman standing on the shoulder of the road just after midnight. She was barefoot. She was wearing a light-colored shirt. She was waving. When he slowed, she stepped back into the darkness between the road and the desert. The driver said that for a split second his headlights caught her face. He later told investigators that her skin looked gray, not dirty, not dusty. Gray, like she had not seen sunlight in a very long time. The truck driver's report was initially categorized as another false sighting, the kind that often surfaced in high-profile missing person cases. Still, protocol required follow-up. Deputies canvassed the stretch of Highway 85 where the woman had reportedly been seen. They found no footprints, no discarded clothing, and no sign of recent human presence. But they did find something else. About 200 yards from the highway, partially hidden by scrub brush, investigators located a cluster of footprints leading toward a narrow arroyo. The prints were faint but visible in sheltered areas where wind had not fully erased them. They appeared barefoot. Mixed in with them were heavier boot prints, larger, deeper. They followed the smaller prints at a consistent distance, as if whoever made them was deliberately staying just behind. The trail ended at a dry wash that cut sharply through a low rock ridge. The sand there was churned, disturbed, but no clear direction could be determined. Wind patterns in that area shifted constantly, destroying evidence within hours. Still, the pattern was enough to trigger concern. Around the same time, Daniel Ward reported something that investigators initially refused to document. He claimed that someone had been watching his house. Daniel lived in a small rental outside Phoenix. Over several nights, he noticed a dark SUV parked across the street for hours at a time. The vehicle would leave before morning. There were no license plates visible. When Daniel attempted to approach once, the SUV pulled away slowly without turning on its headlights. Phone records later showed that on 2 of those nights, Daniel received brief missed calls from blocked numbers within minutes of the SUV leaving. No messages, no voicemails, just rings. Then, on February 11, 2020, an internal email circulated within the sheriff's department that was never meant to be public. A Border Patrol sensor station located near a restricted canyon corridor had been triggered repeatedly over 3 nights. The motion patterns were unusual. They showed movement in and out of the same narrow zone at consistent intervals, as if someone were transporting something or someone through the area. Thermal imaging captured a faint human-sized heat signature on one of the passes. It was followed closely by a second, larger heat mass. The second signature was too large to be another person, too small to be a vehicle. Analysts could not classify it. A covert search team was deployed. They found a makeshift shelter hidden beneath an overhang. It was not visible from above or from most angles on the ground. The shelter was lined with emergency blankets and pieces of tarp. There were empty water bottles, canned food, medical tape, a partially burned flashlight, and something else. On a flat rock near the shelter, someone had carved a series of tally marks, dozens of them, grouped in uneven clusters. Investigators could not determine what they represented. Days, people, attempts. No one knew, but the most disturbing discovery came from a ranger named Michael Cortez. Cortez had been part of multiple searches in the area over the years. He knew the terrain intimately. While inspecting a narrow crevice near the shelter, he noticed something caught deep between two stones. It was a piece of fabric, light-colored, thin. When he pulled it free, he recognized it from the case files. It matched the shirt Megan had been wearing in the gas station footage. Forensics later confirmed fibers consistent with the recovered clothing photos. The discovery should have led to a major breakthrough. Instead, it led to a dead end. There were no blood traces, no DNA, no signs of a struggle, just the fabric, folded, placed, as if someone wanted it to be found. Shortly after this discovery, a man walked into a small clinic in Yuma, Arizona. He gave his name as Samuel Trent. He was dehydrated, disoriented, suffering from heat exposure and malnutrition. When asked how he had ended up in his condition, he gave a strange answer. He said he had been helping someone, a woman. He said she had been trapped. He said she had been underground. Doctors noted that Samuel showed signs of severe psychological stress. He had deep scratches on his arms. His boots were worn down to the soles. His hands trembled constantly. When pressed for details, Samuel became agitated. He said that she could not leave. He said that every time they got close to the road, someone would come. Not in a vehicle, on foot, always from downwind. He said they were not supposed to be seen. Before detectives could formally interview him, Samuel disappeared from the clinic. Security cameras showed him leaving through a side exit at 3:22 a.m. He did not take his belongings. He did not take his discharge papers. His last recorded words to a nurse were, "If they know I talked, she's dead." The clinic reported him missing. No trace of Samuel Trent was ever found. But his brief appearance shifted the tone of the investigation, because for the first time, someone was claiming that Megan was alive, not wandering, not hiding, but being kept. By someone who knew the desert. By someone who knew how to stay invisible after Samuel Trent's disappearance. The case was quietly transferred to a joint task group that included state investigators and federal agencies. Officially, nothing changed. Publicly, the sheriff's office continued to describe the case as unsolved, but internally, the language shifted. They stopped saying missing. They started saying contained. Satellite imagery from the past year was re-examined. Analysts compared thermal scans, shadow patterns, and subtle terrain changes. In late March 2020, one analyst noticed something strange. A small structure, not present in older imagery, not present on any maps. It appeared as a dark, rectangular shape, partially concealed by rock overhangs. Located in a narrow canyon system, nearly impossible to reach without intimate knowledge of the terrain. The structure blended into the rock. Its roof appeared to be covered in dust and debris. From above, it looked like part of the canyon wall. Aerial drones were deployed. Two of them lost signal when they entered the canyon. The third managed to transmit brief footage before its feed cut out. The video showed a reinforced opening built into the rock face. Not a natural cave, not a mine, a door. The door was camouflaged with stone and dust. Investigators did not immediately approach on foot. They waited. They monitored. Motion sensors were placed at canyon entry points. For 3 nights, nothing happened. On the 4th night, one sensor triggered at 2:06 a.m. Thermal imaging picked up movement. One human-sized heat signature entering the canyon. Another, smaller one following. The task force debated intervention. They feared that a premature move could endanger whoever was inside. They chose to observe. At 4:31 a.m., both heat signatures exited the canyon. Only one left. The smaller one disappeared from thermal view near the structure. When teams finally moved in at first light, they found the reinforced opening sealed. The door was locked from the outside. They breached it. Inside, they found a narrow corridor reinforced with scrap metal, wooden beams, and tarps. The air was stale. The smell of sweat and damp earth filled the space. The corridor led to a single chamber. It was small, cramped, barely tall enough to stand. Inside, they found a makeshift bed, empty water bottles, medical supplies, a flashlight, and chains, not attached to anything, but worn recently. The walls were marked with scratches, not tally marks this time, words carved deeply into the stone. Don't make noise. He listens. If you see light, hide. Forensic teams found hair, skin cells. Trace DNA. Preliminary analysis showed a strong probability of Megan Ward, but Megan was not there. What they did find was something that shifted the investigation in a new direction. A notebook. Small, water-damaged, wrapped in plastic. Inside were handwritten entries, dates, observations, descriptions of someone she called the man. She described him as never using a name, never staying in the light, never letting her see his full face. She wrote that he brought food, that he moved her at night, that he kept her hidden, that he warned her that if anyone saw her, he would make sure she was never found. One entry stood out. He says, "I don't belong to the world anymore." He says the desert keeps what it takes. Another entry described hearing a truck engine. She wrote that she thought it was Caleb. She wrote that she screamed. She wrote that the man covered her mouth and told her that the truck was a lie, that it was meant to make people stop looking, that no one would believe she was alive. The notebook ended abruptly. The final page was torn. Near the bed, investigators found a small pile of burned paper. They could not recover the writing. The task force sealed the site. They expanded the perimeter. They prepared for a controlled operation. They believed they were dealing with someone who knew the desert better than any map, someone who had been using the terrain to hide people, possibly for years. Then 2 days after the breach, a single object was found on the hood of Daniel Ward's car. No one saw who placed it. No cameras caught it. It was Megan's wedding ring. Clean, polished, placed carefully in the center of the hood, as if to make sure it would be seen. Alongside it was a folded piece of paper. 2 words were written on it. Too late. The task force realized that whoever they were dealing with was no longer hiding. He was watching them, and he wanted them to know it. The ranger station was supposed to be safe. Thick concrete walls, backup generators, satellite radios, locked evidence rooms, cameras that never stopped recording. That's what the couple believed when they made it there just before sunset. But safety in the desert is an illusion, because the desert doesn't care about walls, it waits. Inside the station, the air felt wrong, too still. The kind of stillness that made every sound feel amplified: the scrape of boots, the click of a light switch, the hum of old fluorescent bulbs. The woman sat on a metal bench, arms wrapped around herself. Her skin was coated in dust and sweat, her lips cracked. Her eyes kept drifting toward the windows, even though outside was nothing but darkness and sand. The man stood near the radio desk, trying to act steady. His hands shook as he pressed the transmit button. "Ranger Station Echo 3, this is civilian vehicle requesting assistance," he said. "We're stranded near Highway 95. Our truck, something's wrong with it, we need extraction." Only static answered. He tried again. Static, then a voice, not clear, not distorted, too clear. "You shouldn't have left the road." Both of them froze. The man stared at the radio like it had just spoken his name. "Who is this?" he asked. Silence. Then the same voice again, softer. "It follows the tracks." The woman stood up slowly. "That's not a ranger," she whispered. The man reached to shut the radio off. Before he could, the voice changed. It sounded like him. His exact tone, his exact voice. "Don't go outside." The man jerked his hand back like he'd been burned. "That's not me," he said, but it was. Same rhythm, same slight hitch in his breathing, same nervous cadence. The woman backed away from the desk. The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the security monitor turned on by itself. Grainy black and white footage filled the screen. It showed the station, from outside, a wide camera angle of the front entrance, the door, the empty parking lot. Their truck wasn't there. The woman leaned closer. "Why is the camera showing now?" she asked. Neither of them had touched it. Then something moved at the edge of the frame. Not a person, not an animal, a shape, tall, too tall. It didn't walk into view, it slid, like it wasn't stepping, like the ground wasn't something it needed. The man whispered, "Turn that off." The woman reached for the keyboard. The screen changed on its own. Now it showed their truck, running, headlights on, in the middle of nowhere, exactly as it would later be found. The woman's breath caught. "That's impossible," she said. "That's not live." The timestamp in the corner said it was. The feed zoomed slowly, closer to the driver's side window. Something was sitting in the driver's seat. Not him, not her, it looked wrong. Its head tilted at an angle no human neck should hold. Its hands were on the steering wheel, too long, too many joints. The man staggered back. "That's not us," he said. "That's not us." The radio crackled again. This time it used her voice. Perfect. "We're still in the truck," she screamed. The lights went out, total darkness. For 3 seconds, long enough for them to hear something move inside the station. Not footsteps, dragging, like something heavy being pulled slowly across concrete. The backup lights snapped on. Dim red emergency lighting filled the room. The bench where the woman had been sitting was empty. The man spun around. "Where did you go?" he shouted. She was standing near the hallway that led to the storage rooms. Her face had gone pale. "Did you just touch me?" she asked. "No," he said. "I felt hands on my shoulders," she whispered. "Cold. Like metal." They heard the dragging sound again, closer from the hallway. The security monitor flickered back on. Now it showed inside footage. Hallway camera, storage corridor. A long, narrow passage. At the far end, something stood there. It looked like a person trying to remember how to be a person. Its limbs bent the wrong way. Its head twitched in small jerks. Its face was blurred, not by the camera, by movement, like it couldn't hold a single shape. The radio turned on again. Both of their voices spoke at once. "Stay inside. Come outside." The man grabbed the woman's hand. "We're leaving," he said. She shook her head. "That's what it wants." The hallway camera zoomed in. The thing in the corridor lifted its head. Its mouth opened. And the sound that came out was the sound of their truck engine idling, not a roar, not a growl, just that steady mechanical hum. Like it was breathing, the dragging sound stopped. Then came footsteps. Real ones, heavy boots coming from the back door. The woman whispered, "There's no one else here." The man stared at the exit. The handle began to turn, slowly, deliberately, like whatever was on the other side wanted them to hear it. The back door never opened. The handle turned, stopped, turned again, then went still. Neither of them moved. They stood frozen in the red emergency light, listening to their own breathing echo too loudly in the empty station. The man slowly lifted his phone. No signal, no bars. But the screen flickered anyway. A notification appeared. Incoming call unknown. He hadn't dialed. He hadn't even had service. The phone began to vibrate in his hand. The woman whispered, "Don't answer it." The call stopped. Immediately the station phone rang. The old desk phone by the ranger counter. It hadn't been plugged in for years. Dust still coated the base, but it rang once, twice. The man stepped forward. Every instinct told him not to touch it. He picked up the receiver. "Hello," only breathing answered, not one person. Two, one slow, one fast. The fast one sounded like panic, like someone running. Then the woman's voice came through. Crying, sobbing. "Please," her voice said. "I'm outside. I can see the lights. Let me in." The real woman grabbed his arm. "That's not me," she whispered, her nails digging into his skin. On the phone, her other voice kept crying. "They won't let me back in. It's right behind me." A shape passed across the front windows, fast, too fast to be human. The station lights flickered again. The hallway monitor turned on. Now it showed the front entrance camera. The woman was standing outside. Exact clothes, exact posture, same dusty hair, same face. She was pounding on the glass, mouth open in a silent scream. The real woman backed away. "That's not me," she said again, louder. "That's not me." The man couldn't breathe. He was looking at two versions of the same person, one inside, one outside. The one outside turned her head slowly. Not toward the door, toward the camera, toward him. Her eyes were wrong, too dark, too deep. Like the light couldn't reach them. She smiled. The smile didn't belong on a human face. The phone went dead. The hallway camera feed switched. Now it showed the storage room, the metal shelves, emergency supplies, spare uniforms. At the back of the room, their truck keys. Hanging from a hook, the same keys the man swore were still in his pocket. He reached into his jeans, empty, his face drained of color. "They took the keys," he whispered. The woman shook her head slowly. "They want us to go back to the truck." The front camera feed showed the outside woman stepping away from the glass, walking toward the darkness, toward the desert. She stopped, turned back, held up something in her hand, a phone, the man's phone, the one he was holding. The screen in his hand went black, dead. The version of her outside raised the phone to her ear, even though it wasn't ringing. Then she mouthed three words, "Come, find me." The security feed glitched. Now it showed the desert road. Their truck still running, driver's door open, headlights cutting through blowing sand, two sets of footprints in the dirt, one set human, one set wrong, too long, toes dragged. Like something learning how feet worked, the man grabbed the woman. "We can't stay here," he said. "It knows where we are." The emergency radio crackled again, a ranger's voice this time, real, clear. "This is Ranger Dispatch. If you're inside Echo 3, respond." The man slammed the transmit button. "Yes," he shouted. "We're here, please, we need help." Static. Then the ranger's voice again. But something was off, just slightly. "Step outside so we can see you." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "That's not a ranger," she said. "They don't ask you to step outside at night." The footsteps returned. Not from the hallway, not from the back door, from above, from the roof. Slow, heavy, something pacing, testing the structure. The ceiling creaked, dust fell. The outside woman appeared on the front camera again, standing right at the door, not knocking, just waiting. The man whispered, "What if it takes one of us and lets the other go?" The woman stared at him. "It already did," she said. The footsteps on the roof stopped. The silence that followed was worse. No wind, no creaking, no breathing, just the low hum of the generator somewhere deep in the station. The outside woman was still on the camera, not moving, not blinking. Just standing inches from the glass, waiting. The man tightened his grip on the woman's hand. "If we stay, it comes in," he whispered. "If we go out, it takes us." The woman swallowed. "Then we don't let it decide," she said. The emergency radio crackled again. This time the voice was different, female, breathless. "This is Search Unit 4. We have a vehicle matching your description on Route 88, headlights on, engine running, no occupants." The man's heart slammed against his ribs. "That's our truck," he said. "That's us," the dispatcher continued. "There are no footprints leading away, but there are tracks around the vehicle, not tire tracks, not animal tracks." The woman closed her eyes. "They're still there," she whispered, "even now." The outside woman tilted her head, slowly, like she was listening to the radio too. The lights in the station flickered, then went out. Emergency red returned. The hallway monitor turned to static. The front camera froze on a single frame. The outside woman's face pressed against the glass, eyes black, smile stretched too wide. Then the feed went dead. The back door slammed open, not forced, not broken, opened. Cold desert air rushed in, carrying sand, carrying something else. A smell like burned rubber, like old blood. Footsteps entered, not human pacing, Dragging, uneven, learning, the woman whispered, "Don't look at it." The man looked anyway. The shape in the hallway was wrong, tall, too many joints. Limbs bending where they shouldn't. It moved like it was wearing a body, not like it owned one. Behind it, another shape, smaller, human, the woman's voice, crying. The real woman screamed, "That's not me." The creature turned its head. Not its whole body, just its head. Too far, crack, pop. The man fired the flare gun. The flare hit the shape in the chest. Light exploded. Red fire filled the hallway. The creature screamed. Not a human scream. A layered sound, multiple throats, multiple voices. The smaller human shape collapsed. When the smoke cleared, it was the woman. Not the real one. The copy burned, melting like wax. The larger shape retreated, not running, not fleeing, backing away, like it was curious, not afraid. The station shook. The generator died, total darkness. Then headlights cut through the front windows, real ones, white, bright, engines, multiple vehicles, rangers, search teams, voices. The back door slammed shut on its own. The hallway went still. When the lights came back on, the hallway was empty. No creature, no copy, no footprints, just melted residue on the floor. Like scorched sand. The rangers found them sitting on the floor, holding each other, shaking, unable to speak. They were taken to the hospital, questioned, tested, scanned. No drugs, no injuries. No explanation. Search teams went back to the truck. It was still running, engine hot, fuel nearly empty. Inside the cab, two sets of handprints on the steering wheel. One normal, one too long. Too many fingers. They shut the truck off, for the first time in months. The official report listed them as found, alive, dehydrated, disoriented, case closed, but the desert didn't close. 3 weeks later, a hunter found a new set of tracks near Route 88, leading away from the road, human footprints, alongside something else, learning how to walk.